right.
Yeah.
And we are live.
Sweet.
What is up, guys? What is up? Welcome to the live stream with Warriors Way Home. I'm your boy Travis. You're my co-host Edmund.
What's going on, guys?
Man, we are getting into it tonight. So, bit of a a pop-up.
Yeah.
We supposed to put some information out, yesterday, but we both dropped the ball. It's when you're juggling a bunch of stuff in the air. So, but for moving forward, just so you guys know, we'll be dropping something every Friday. The first and the third Friday of every month will be a video, a standalone podcast episode, and the second and the fourth Friday of every month we will be doing our live stream videos.
For sure.
Digging into some different topics like we got today, man. Bro, the world seems a lot of people are angry at Anthony.
And for what reason? I couldn't tell
Anthony
you.
Mackie right now.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about is the a bit of the Anthony Mackie controversy going on about we're telling us the death of the American man.
I wouldn't call it a controversy. It's more like a kerfuffle. It's very minor. I think what they're mad about is minor.
It's minor in your world,
Yeah,
but a lot of people are real pissed off apparently about what he said.
I feel it. He did an interview with, I can't remember the name of the podcast.
I think it was Pivot
Podcast. Yeah, shout out to those guys. Good show. It was a great episode with them, but he was talking about how the death of the American male, as far as like the way men are being raised in the household right now. He was basically saying that masculinity has been completely taken out of it, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I see why he was saying that, coming from like the 90s era that he was predominantly kind of talking about, as far as how men are being raised, and basically having a male figure in the household being able to kind of teach a man how to be a man.
Yeah.
Where right now it's like, because we have so many single women or single mothers, definitely shout out to the work that they do, but a woman can't necessarily raise a man in this way.
Woman can't teach you to be a man.
Exactly.
It's like I was raised by a mom. She couldn't teach me to become a man. I still had so many questions by the end of this. We're gonna let Instagram know real quick that we are live.
Sure.
But yeah, man, the big thing I think a lot of people are upset about is like I said, and we've talked about it before, there's definitely a war on masculinity and manhood now. It's almost seen as quote unquote toxic to be a male and do things that males do.
Right.
Any type of aggression or being out there and forward, being in the front. All these different things that they now quote unquote, they used to be commonly, this is just what males do. This is just what men do.
It's the standard.
Leading, opening, even opening doors for women.
Yes, sir. No man having manners.
Yeah,
honestly,
having manners.
I do not see a lot of manners out in the world these days. For sure. Common courtesy. You know what I'm saying? Like basically being able to stick up for yourself to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Because even as he was talking in the interview, he was like, because he said he has 3 boys, maybe 1 girl, something like that. But he for sure has 2 older sons, and he was like no, my boys are gonna be men type thing, and like he was kind of getting like passionate about it, which is that's what you want, right? Like if you want to be enthusiastic about the fact that you're trying to raise men in this world, you should be wanting to have that type of energy with it. But he could tell, like one of his main examples was the difference between men. Yeah, when you go on with Wendy Williams. But
hold on real quick. Hey, Instagram. So we are live right now. I'm actually here in person with Edmund right now. So we are doing a live talking about I'm gonna call it the Anthony Mackie controversy. Edmund's not calling it controversy. Right. I'm gonna call it a controversy.
The Anthony Mackie kerfuffle.
Just because how much is blown up on the internet.
For sure.
I'm calling it a controversy.
Yeah.
About the death of the American male. So hop in and tap in with us. The link should be in the post that we posted in the store, in the past story as well. So definitely tap in with us and get some of this on YouTube. So let's go.
So it was kind of crazy because one of the things he was talking about was the difference between men here in the States and then with men in Europe.
And
so
I
think he was like kind of traveling.
About Kenya as well.
Kenya? Oh, okay. I missed the Kenya part.
Yeah, he had a thing to say about Kenya that probably didn't go over too well in Kenya.
Yeah. So basically, he was saying like the way that some men carry themselves is very different depending on where you are. And he was like, here, head up, chest out, chin up, that kind of thing. Make sure that you have some, basically walking with confidence is what I heard, the way he was talking about it. You want to make sure that you're walking with some type of confidence, authority in yourself. Where in Europe, maybe it's a bit more lax, more, I don't know, man, like if it's just the opposite, more feminine attributes. Yeah. Which, everybody is different, but I find value in what he was saying is because that's the way that we try to carry ourselves. It's the way that I think most men should carry themselves, but every place is a little bit different. So making sure that, yes, you want to make sure that your head is up, shoulders back, chest out, walking with confidence, because if you don't do that here, you're more liable to get fucked with. Yes. And it's just how things are. You are kind of seen as a weak target if you're not carrying yourself a certain way. Like I remember in high school and maybe even junior high school, I did not have that confidence for the majority of that time. Yeah. So I was one of the people who was getting fucked with a lot, but once I started, especially like when I started martial arts and just kind of found who my identity and found out who I was as an individual, I definitely had that confidence and that like stopped immediately. You know what I mean? And it wasn't nothing I had to go and announce to anybody when I was doing that either. It was just, he respects himself.
There's an aura.
Yeah. But what they call it, the kids call it now aura farming.
Like is that what they call it?
They do. So like basically,
man, I feel old.
But it's a weird term, but it's like aura farming is apparently when your whatever presence that you have. What's the best way to put it? So like you're trying to get that respect back from other people. Whatever your actions, whatever actions that you're taking. If I'm wrong, put it in the chat. But from what it sounds like is the reactions that you're getting from people based off of how you're behaving is aura farming, because that you're looking to gain that respect from them off of that first interaction kind of thing.
That doesn't sound like farming. That sounds like energy vampires to me.
I don't
anyway.
It's not my generation. It's lingo, but here we are. I'm sure it came from some video game or something.
Yeah. But no, it definitely makes sense. It's like one of the, and like I said, we've talked about on multiple occasions about just where we are and what direction society is heading, and trying to take men now. Yeah. The expectations, even the criticisms that come up with guys. I mean, like I said, the fact that we're even sitting here talking about this right now, when all the guy said was basically how he wants to raise his boys to be men. Right. That when he headed out of town and different things like that, he told his older son, is like, hey, you're the man of the house now. Take care of things, make sure the door is locked. And what my thing is, what part of that sounded bad to people is like, that's the key part. Is a lot of times when people have issues with this, they can't pinpoint a certain specific thing that they have a problem with.
It was the energy that he came
with. They just say, it's like, oh, it's just toxic. Well, what exactly did he say that was toxic? Well, I can't say anything specific. Then you don't know. Right. I absolutely hate in conversations when you have a conversation with people and they say they have a problem with something, but they can't be specific in what exact thing they had an issue about. Right. They just want to generalize it. Well, the whole thing is like, no, it can't be the whole thing. There's no way you had a problem with the entire thing.
The whole thing didn't go viral. That clip that he said went viral.
And that's like, so what specifically did he say that you had a problem with it? And and people on here had, really identified and had a problem with somebody said, put it down in the comment. What did he say that was a problem in your mind? Because from my point of view and what I saw was all he was trying to do is make sure he raises his boys properly. Right. And and to be strong, independent, capable, reliable, capable men.
Yeah. Because that's the first thing I heard when he was like, oh, make sure the door is locked, take care of your family, all that stuff.
Make sure your mom's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That safety, protection, like making sure that the area that you're in is well guarded as well. Even if you are not strong enough. Because what he said, you could have all the money in the world, but the minute somebody breaks in your door, somebody kicks down your door, that money does nothing. First of all, they're probably coming for the money and they're willing to go through you to get it. Yeah. So what security measures do you have in place? And he said that that being able to provide for your family, that's where the money comes in, but it's secure and protect. The protection part comes in, and I don't know, maybe it is being trained in guns or weapons or whatever, but it's first of all, lock the door. That's the first defense anybody ever has, is to lock their front door.
Yeah, don't be naive about it.
Don't just, I hate when people, well, I don't hate it, but when people say like, oh, back in the day, you could just leave your front door unlocked. Why would you do that?
It depends
at any point in time.
Depends on where you were.
Yeah, well, yeah, but still, it's like, okay, and even if you're in affluent white neighborhoods or whatever, I don't think anybody should not be locking their door, period. You know what I mean? Because, okay, somebody's going to come from outside of that neighborhood. Yeah. Why do you think home invasions maybe have gone up so much from those days? Because everybody's leaving their door unlocked. So if you're deciding to be an easy target, how is that his fault? How is that anybody's fault but yours if you're not locking your front door and keeping your property safe?
For sure. You know, and a big thing that may be going on is some projection that's happening here, because a lot of the people who seem to be upset about this thing, I always tell people this is like it's easy to be upset and to be to die on these stupid I'm gonna call them stupid. I don't want to call them stupid. To die on some of these hills like, oh, masculinity is toxic and different things like that. It's like, okay, masculinity is toxic until you need a cop.
Yeah.
Masculinity is masculinity is toxic, until you get robbed or somebody assaults you.
Somebody with force.
And who do they send? They send a toxic male. Usually. They have female cops, but usually they send a toxic male to the scene of the crime, especially if somebody's still in your house.
Yeah.
Now, do you want the soft guy?
Not somebody passive.
Who do you want?
Hello? Are you still robbing my house?
If you wake up and somebody's in your house, let's say male or woman, is like, who do you want to come assist you? Maybe not even like save you, but just come help. Is like, do you want the guy that's like, excuse if you're in here,
this is wrong.
I know you probably come from a bad environment.
Right.
Maybe your father wasn't in the house. It's like, but you don't have to do this. There's other ways. We have resources.
Let's talk this out.
Yeah, let's just sit down with a cup of tea and have this kind of talk this out and see where your life went astray.
Right.
Is where you want that guy that's gonna be like, hey, bro, you got 30 seconds.
Right. And I spent 5 coming in here.
Yeah,
to tell you that.
It's like you got 30 seconds. Time started when I opened the door.
Right.
It's like either you're coming out or I'm coming in.
Right. Or you want Rambo or you want Ned Flanders, and that's a very wide range to pick from. But you know what I'm saying, you want somebody who's going to be able to who's willing to assist you to run towards the gunfire, as people say. And you want somebody who, I mean, I feel like even with female cops, they are trying to compensate for the fact that maybe they're not innately like that.
Yeah.
But they're trying to match the energy of the rest of the force, because a female cop that comes through there, they probably didn't get a whole lot of respect from the academy because of the men that was in there. So they feel like they have to compete a bit harder. So like you said, no matter who you're sending, I want them to be a bit more on that like rah shit, at least a little bit.
Even the women in that job are going to have to tap into that aggressive side. Some of those quote unquote more traditional male traits, she's going to have to tap into that to do her job as a police officer.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, so what are we really talking about here?
Yeah.
It's like so it's toxic when it's easy to talk about these things. And I think this is why society, we have it really easy right now, is because it's real easy to find offense with all of these things, with guys being aggressive, wanting men to be men and all these different things. Well, that's toxic. That's toxic until a bomb drops, until somebody starts shooting. Until somebody's in your house at 3 o'clock in the morning that's not supposed to be there.
Right.
Until somebody breaks in tries to steal your car with you inside of it. These things are all real toxic until those moments happen, until real life comes and slaps you in the face and reminds you that the world is not a safe place.
Yeah. Perfect example. There was we was watching some like I survived a crime show my wife likes or whatever, and there was this one dude, super skinny. Somebody broke in his house, had a rifle, had like an assault rifle, and it was him and his girl. Girl was chilling on the couch watching TV. Normal night.
Wasn't that boy and his sister?
No. This was, I don't know when it was, but it was just something that happened. And unfortunately, it happened.
Where the dude came up the stairs and they came up.
Yeah.
I think that was his sister, from what I heard, but I could be wrong. Anyway,
they were kissing on the show, so I don't know.
Oh well, hey man, maybe they were in the South.
So in Houston last week, no. But yeah, the dude he was coming out of the kitchen. The guy, brother, husband, whatever. He was coming out. The guy was coming out of the. He was coming out of the kitchen, and the guy immediately grabbed the gun.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. The dude hadn't even pointed at anybody yet, but he knew. He was like, it's go time.
Yeah.
So he grabbed the gun, ended up like tripping the dude, grappling with him, took it from him, and the guy ran out. But the guy tried to come back and get his gun back. He was like, hey man, I know I tried to rob you, but like, come on, rifle back, bro. Let's call it even. But he was like, no. So like he walloped on him a little bit. He didn't end up getting arrested, but like she was super grateful.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't like somebody built like the Terminator or somebody who had a 6-pack super strong. It was just the fact that he was willing to act. The fact that he did act and protected his household is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the attitude first and foremost before you think you need to have some type like the best gun, or he could have grabbed a kitchen knife and probably would have been okay. But he went in barehanded. He was like from here to the laundry and was like, no.
Yeah,
like this is mine. I'm gotta take care of my stuff.
Yeah, he tapped into that. He tapped into that dark side of himself that we talk about so much. So you got to be able to tap into that. You have the Buddha heart, but you have the demon hand. So you have to be able to tap into both. You can be peaceful and calm and everything like that. That's great. Now I say this phrase to people all the time. At a certain point, even a monk will whoop your ass.
Right.
Especially if you're like if you go to the highest peaks in the Himalayas and you take a torch, you try and burn down their temple. You're going to see those monks go from peaceful to something else.
They say that monks are supposed to be pacifists. I think it's pacifists because first of all, they're training 12 hours a day, and if they're not training, they're praying, and that's pretty much all that they got, or some type of charity service or whatever. But like they're spending so much time honing their body because they know somebody might try to come up there, or if they're in they're amongst the regular populace, somebody's either going to try to rob them or kill them for some reason. Or think about it, how much faith-based attacks have been happening in the U.S. alone for the past couple of years. People running into churches, mosques and all that. It's too much. So you need to be able to do both. We're not given this ability to just be. We should lead with kindness. Yeah, but that's not always what follows.
Yeah, and there's a reason we're built the way we're built is even just having the amount of testosterone we have between men and women, the difference, and that's biologically that's for a reason. But if you just look at little boys and little girls playing, the little boys usually play way more aggressive than the little girls.
Way more rough.
Play fighting, play
football,
and fighting and slingshots and throwing rocks at each other and all kind even playing basketball. It's like somebody's gonna get a bloody nose probably.
For sure.
It's for sure. Little boys play differently than women, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like we are supposed to fit roles. That's how we were designed.
Yeah.
Let's play devil's advocate a little bit. Let's pretend we're on the other side of somebody who actually has an issue with what was said.
Okay.
Why would somebody have an issue with what was said and how it was said?
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because one thing that I did hear that he said was when he was either overseas or just he's around not the type of masculine that he would prefer. Let's put it that way.
Really, he was used to.
He was used to. He could see that these men were different, and he was like, "Man, I'd bust you up." And it's not even that. I don't think it's malicious, but I think there's a feeling of I'm sad now. Because if something does happen, it might just be me who actually acts. It won't be these other men. Maybe they will try to run away or not try to protect women and children and all that. And that's our main role, is to protect men and women. So women and children. So if you feel like if something jumps off, you're the only one who's going to act, you're probably going to end up dead because you didn't have any type of backup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So on the other side, it's hard for me to even think that way, because I would want to be around other men who at least had the testosterone to be like, they're analyzing every other man in the room to be like, okay, if something jump off, these three guys are going to be
that look.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, let's go.
Stuff's starting to get a little tense. Like, you good?
Somebody who's going to want to step in.
Yeah.
When that time comes. Whereas other men, they might be running towards the life raft and leaving the women and children, which is not cool. You know what I'm saying? So like you're saying, if something goes down, who's going to be the other guys I can start to collaborate with, even if it's just to get away, even if it's just to open up another door for everybody else to get away.
Yeah.
And maybe try to mitigate the situation in some form or fashion. If you have nothing but people who are looking to kind of save themselves, then nobody's going to make it out. Because if everybody's running towards the fire exit and there's no type of organization, even if it's just to say, hey, this way, here's another exit type of thing. So I don't think I answered your question, but
but you kind of you danced around a little bit, but you made some good points though, as far as just even having that feeling of like being in a place where it's like, if anything happens, it's like, this is on me, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually had that feeling when I was a trainer on the military base. which is a weird.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Uh-oh.
This caught me off guard, and
Oh, boy.
it wasn't necessarily like everybody. It was you know, I was training a certain group, and there was this one guy who was active duty military. He was there doing PT, you know, PT time, and he was struggling.
Mm.
I mean, and I'll put the caveat. I think he was, you know, more on the flamboyant side of things. We'll say the lifestyle. But he was struggling, bro. I mean, struggling to do push-ups, struggling to do the squat, like struggling to do and
the basics.
The women were kicking his ass. All the ladies I had in that class could do everything I had them doing, and we're just you know, I mean, yeah, some of them were complaining, but they were powering through it. They could do it. Push-ups, no problem. This, no problem. That, no problem. But this guy, and there was some other guys who didn't have any issue, but this one guy in particular made me realize it was like there's maybe two other guys in the group. It was a smaller group, like maybe 7. So it's like maybe 2 guys, 2 other guys, but you know, the rest were women, and then this one guy. And watching him do that made me realize, like, if something happened right now, I couldn't depend on you to do your job.
Right.
And you're a soldier.
Right.
I was like, that terrified me.
Yeah.
I was like, because if something actually popped off right here, I couldn't depend on you to actually. It's like, dude, don't give him the gun. It's like, please. it's like, hey, hand that over here.
Right.
And it's like, don't, no.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, make sure he gets. No, bro, I'm good. You go ahead, and I might end up having to drag you out of this building. You go ahead and do whatever I'll find my way out.
Right.
You go do you. But it was to see that, I was like, how is that possible? That this guy's an American active duty Army soldier, and he was basic stuff like push-ups and different things like that.
Oh, like how did he even make it through to this point?
Yeah, I'm like, how did you?
Yeah, I got you.
How?
Yeah.
How did you make it here? It's like, it's funny because most of the guys I knew growing up were like GI Joes. I've been around the military all my life. It's like they were like walking, talking GI Joe dolls, bunch of big, usually bald-headed, both, you know, just guys you didn't want to fuck with. Like the guys you're mentioning, it's like the guys that you just look at like, oh,
yeah.
It's like even the smaller, skinnier guys is like probably don't want to fuck with that guy.
Right. To actually go back and answer your question, the only reason why I would think in any version of that where it's an issue is because you first have to go into that arena, that environment to assess the people. As a man, it's like
expand on that more. What do you mean? Assess the people or environment?
Yeah. So I was taught, and I try to teach people when I do like self-defense stuff, that when you go into a room, you should be trying to find the exits. You're kind of looking at everybody a little bit to kind of see if there is going to be a threat as you arrive, and not necessarily on the way out. See if anybody, like you go to the club, perfect example. You go in there, there's guys lined up against the back wall. They're not doing too much. They're just kind of chilling. They're waiting for something to pop off. They're ready in case something did. There maybe some of them are hoping for it, but it's the fact that you need to look at everybody, especially now. You need to figure out, is this actually a safe place for me to be right now?
Assess your environment.
You have to assess your environment. If you don't do that, you're just going in having a good time and something jumps off. Well, now you don't know where the exits are. You don't know for the possible threats that could have been there from jump. If you walk into a room, there's a guy standing in the corner, he's kind of staring you down. What's up with that? Maybe he's just trying to assess you. But the fact that he's doing that means that he's expecting something to happen, and maybe you're just like, what's his problem? And then when you walk away and something does happen, you don't see him no more. Maybe he is the problem. Maybe he's looking to kind of put the problem to bed, but you can't act the way you should because you haven't properly assessed your environment. So when you go into a room and say, let's say it's 5 guys and all of them look buff and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're dressing you up the same way you should be dressing them up. And it's not necessarily a malicious thing, but you need to be making sure that you're just looking at all the factors to see, do you actually need to be there? Or maybe this is not where I need to be right now. So maybe I need to leave. You know, and that's the first thing you do when you're trying to think about self-defense is, should I even be here right now? If you're going to a party in the hood, well, first of all, it's in the hood, so maybe I shouldn't be around those. If it's not my natural.
But they have the best parties.
They do, but they also get shot up a whole lot too. There's always a fight or drama or whatever, or people drinking too much, getting way too inebriated. if you feel unsafe in that environment, you should leave.
Yeah.
If you feel safe in that environment, then if it's your people and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, have fun, do what you do.
Yeah.
But even when you're in a place where you're familiar with, you should still know who's there. You should be assessing people, checking out the exits. Just kind of making sure that you are going to be able to go home at night, because like your sensei said, that's the true victory.
Absolutely.
In every situation is being able to make it home. So if you're going around to these places and saying and trying to pick out who you think you could fuck up, well, just know that somebody's probably doing that to you too. So that's the kind of toxic part, is that you're kind of dressing people like that. Maybe you shouldn't feel like you should have to, but it's the world that we live in. You should be looking at everybody's a threat in one way or another. Yeah, in my opinion.
I think I took a bit of a different view, and I think I say all the time, hit dog gonna holler.
Yeah.
I think that for somebody to have an issue with this, especially a guy, I would say, let's just go from there. I can't really talk to the women because they probably feel a certain type of way about it. But let's start with the guy first. If for another guy to have an issue with what he said, it probably had some truth to it for you. Because usually people aren't offended by something that doesn't apply to them.
Yeah,
it's like, sure. if a guy walked past right now and we called him fat, and he's 125 pounds and he's 6'2",
it's like
he'd be like,
what?
You're an idiot. And
right. You're blind and dumb. All right, I gotta
but if a guy who's 5'4" walked in here and he's 350 and we called him fat, he might get a little upset about that, whether it be angry, upset and leave or cry or whatever he's going to do.
Right.
He might get a little upset about that because what we said has some truth to it, and he thinks that to himself in his own head.
Right.
So for a guy to be upset about what's happening, what he said about whether it be the masculinity thing or his kids or something like that, there's probably something, he probably touched a button with that person. There's probably some truth to that to that person in that statement.
Right.
Of even like, men need to be men and these different things like that. If you are really honest with yourself, you may not be feeling like you're a real man in those scenarios. You may be like, okay, well, I'm one of those guys he's talking about who can't, who can't defend himself. If somebody has something happen right now, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to handle it.
Right.
It's like, or my dad wasn't around to raise me that way, to expect those things from me. No one told me when they left out of town that, hey, you're the man of the house. You're the man of the house now. You're responsible. And put me in that role. No one's ever put me in that role before.
Right.
So for me, that role is that doesn't exist.
Right.
So
doesn't mean you can't build it though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's why we're here, and that's why we're trying to impart whatever knowledge we can. But I mean, it doesn't have to be us. It could be anybody along in this same space where you're trying to develop honorable masculinity. And what I think he was displaying was honorable masculinity in the way he was saying it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a frustration with men who were raised, because he was talking about that 90s era specifically.
Yeah.
And like you said, like we are used to a certain aesthetic when it comes to a real man, but it's become a little bit corrupted or maybe a little bit demonized, because that strength, let's be honest, if we're talking about that like typical military Arnold Schwarzenegger looking like man who was in the military, he also didn't have a good grasp on his emotions and may have been had some misplaced aggression around the people that he was with. You know what I mean? Like when I say, okay,
I think it depends on the guy.
But do these men that you're talking about go to therapy as far as being able to like tone down the war mentality after they came home?
Doubt it.
So did they maybe lean on drinking or drugs or going out?
Oh yeah,
wanted to get back into
excess. Definitely happened.
Exactly.
So
there may have been some abuse that was as a result of what they had to be when they were in the military.
Well, and that goes to what we talk about with the being able to tap into both.
Yeah,
is that you have to be able to turn that off.
Right. But we've been exposed to that first part so much that I think that's the part they may be thinking of as toxic.
I think we've been exposed to that, but I don't think some people have.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big issue that's happening right now is I think a lot of people that maybe find this offensive probably haven't been exposed to that type of dude.
Right.
Because a lot of people live in their own echo chamber.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, for me, you know, growing up, even me living my own echo chamber, for me being around all of those military guys and everything like that, that's why seeing that guy not being able to do push-ups was so jarring to me.
Right.
I was like, you're a soldier.
Right.
We're not talking about, you know, civilian in a 24-hour fitness.
Right.
You are wearing.
You're already here.
You are wearing PT gear. You have Army across your chest on a military base.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is this that's why it was so jarring for me.
Right.
Was because I'm not used to seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't fit into my echo chamber.
Right.
It's like, because my echo chamber was like, oh, well, these guys are capable and rough, tough, even if they are having a heart, they're gonna die before they
doing the specialty push-ups.
Yeah,
like
well,
it's the 100
not even
one
that.
set.
They'll just, you know, they come in drunk and, you know, do the, you know, knock it as like, I'll die before I admit defeat. That type of mentality.
Right.
And this guy was, you know, so it wasn't just that you could do it. It was just the whining, and he was whining and complaining about it, and that just stacked it up for me. And I was just like, who the fuck are you? It's like, how did you slip in the back door? Like, literally.
I found this shirt. It looked comfortable.
You know, I was like, oh, are you really in the Army?
Right.
like for real? It's like, you know, like this isn't your first day, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
sure.
You actually made it through boot camp. You don't have a twin that you replaced or something like that, right? like no, seriously, because it was that jarring for me, because it's like being around the military so much in my life and seeing what they had to do, and even working in that environment and seeing how they had to operate, and then seeing this guy, it didn't fit the programming in my head for it. So it was like, that was jarring. So I could see why something like what he said would be jarring. If you don't see that in your daily world, in your daily life, if you never had a man talk to you like that,
right,
that would freak some people out
for sure.
Like, if you never had, it's like, hey, you know, it's like, hey, get your shit together, stand up straight, da 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 da. If you never had just somebody do that to you, say something like that to you, that would, you know, seeing him do what he did would probably be really jarring to you.
Yeah,
that would probably be like, that's, you know, that would seem toxic to you. That would seem wrong. Not that would say toxic. That would seem wrong to you.
Right, out of place.
You know, it's like, how can he talk to his kids like that?
Yeah,
because you haven't experienced that type of thing. Like, you know, I talked about before we talked. It's like, I didn't see anything wrong with what he said, because that's been my experience. I've had plenty of guys talk to me like that.
Right.
It's like, so for me, I was just like, what do you say? What was
wrong?
What's the issue?
Right. And I think it's good to definitely get exposure from different points of view in that. And even with, I mean, if we're keeping with the military example, even the ones who were homosexual, they were still strong as shit.
Yes.
And they were still entirely capable, and that's what the whole don't ask, don't tell was about.
He wasn't the first one I met that you know, lived that lifestyle, but the rest of them weren't. I was like, this doesn't make
kick
sense.
my ass.
You know, this doesn't make sense. It's like, there's plenty of guys that I'm pretty sure swung the other way, but it had nothing to do with them being able to perform, them being capable. He was not capable.
Right. I think that's one thing that people kind of get wrong too, is that I don't think your sexuality has anything to do with your ability. You know what I mean? Because I think when they did like the whole don't ask, don't tell stuff, it stopped people from being themselves, but I don't think it stopped them from doing the job. I think it was like, we just don't want to know. But you're really good at operating this AR-15. We want to keep that part of it. But you know what I mean? And for whatever, or maybe they thought it would make the country look bad or the army look bad, whatever that it was. I think people need to stop thinking that because your lifestyle is one way, that you're not capable of anything else but that thing. It's like when people pigeonhole themselves and, oh, you're Democrat or Republican or gay or straight or whatever, like you're only allowed to be one thing. No, you can be whatever you want. Just understand that people are just going to not like those certain aspects of you. And for whatever reason, they'll write you off for that. They'll write us off for being black. They'll write you off for being white. It doesn't matter. There's always somebody who's going to be against whatever one thing that you or maybe multiple things. Yeah. But it's better to be good at whatever that you're doing and let that be an afterthought. I think people just kind of, and especially because we're talking about that masculine and feminine thing, and people are trying to find that middle ground. Yeah. But the middle ground itself is not being expressed in the popular culture. No, and I think that's why it was. We talked about it. It's like him being the other part is, I think, him being from Hollywood. When was the last time you heard a Hollywood an A-list actor say some shit like that? Couldn't tell you.
and then go out to the world.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the last time I heard somebody say something like that.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is that I don't know if you saw that. I know I bring it up all the time, but I know you haven't seen Black Mirror. He was in an episode of Black Mirror where he was playing a video game with his homeboy, and it ended up being like a gay situation. Like he was basically cheating on his wife in the video game with his friend. So it's for him to say that might be another reason why it went viral, because it was called Striking Vipers. And so like one of them was the girl, one of them was another guy. And then like you could actually do it in the game. And like, it was right after he became Captain America for the first time. And then the next thing you saw him in was Striking Vipers. And then everybody was like, oh, bro, especially the Black community. It was like, oh, bro, come on. Like, why would you do that? You just became Captain America. You are now the face of America. Why would you do that? But his point still stands.
Yeah.
He's an actor.
Yeah.
His job is to pretend.
Mm-hmm.
So then why are you upset that he got a gig and he did this thing? But in real life, his stance is, no, I want my boys to be men. I want to make sure that I'm raising strong, capable, well-rounded men.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you said, why people are, and this goes to the other side. It's like people are always going to get upset about everything. People are going to be upset about him saying that he wants his boys to be masculine, men, da da da, and people are going to be upset about you playing this role that's not that.
Right.
I think the big piece is that there's not a lot of examples already in that sphere of things. So the Black community and everything like that gets up in arms about that kind of thing. And to be honest, I do too. In certain instances, with that, I'd be like, but like guys in dresses, things like that, I'm like, why? And it's it happens
a lot in Hollywood,
and it does. And I think a lot of it is sorry. I hit it and it still didn't go off.
I got you.
But I think a lot of that comes into play because there's already not a lot of like real masculine male role models, especially for the Black community. You just don't see that a lot.
They put us in dresses
first. And think about the guys they put in dresses. I mean, you're talking about when they really started doing that was
Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence.
Even before then,
the Wayans,
before
Jamie Foxx.
Before then, one of the first times I saw a Black guy in a dress was actually Blade.
Oh, Wesley Snipes. I forgot about that.
Wesley Snipes. Played a cross-dresser.
What's
back in the day?
Ving Rhames? No,
Ving
Rhames
played a cross-dresser.
What was that movie? I forget.
I don't remember.
But I know. Yeah.
But those two guys were the first times I saw like a masculine, kind of male, Black male, and
they'd be still building them dresses
popped
too.
Them in a dress, and I was like, and I was like, what is going on here? And I was just like, it was odd. It was really weird at the time. I didn't realize why that was. Later it kind of came up in this whole thing we can get into about them trying to water down, and I think to his point, society's trying to water down masculinity.
For sure.
It has been for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, it's like, well, anytime a man is in a dress is funny. It's like, is it though?
Big Mama's House was funny, but most
all
of the time,
these things require that though?
Right.
It's like, really?
What is the push to do that so much is my thing. Why is it that for some that's the next logical step? You start getting real big. Oh, let's throw you in a dress. That'll be hilarious. Well, why?
Well, I mean, think about it. It's like as much as what was the name of the Blade?
Wesley Snipes.
As much as Wesley Snipes is like the man, is like, and Blade is one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite movies. 1 and 2, 3 was.
1 and 2 was great.
But some of my favorite movies. And the first Marvel character was a Black man playing the lead role. All these things. Like that was like but I'm as much as I love that, I'm never gonna be able to forget that he was in a dress at one point.
What movie was that?
I don't remember what it was. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember what it was.
I
think it was like on TV one day, and I was like, "What the hell?" I didn't even know that movie existed.
My Blade.
Yeah, it's like the specifically as much as it's like this is like Blade. Right. Always gonna be known as that. In the back of my mind, there's always gonna be like it's
like an asterisk like, next to your name.
He did play,
You're a pro athlete.
Play a guy in a dress type.
Yeah,
it's like so. It's one of those things. So, masculinity has been definitely being watered down for a long time. Because think about it, we've gone from Arnold Schwarzenegger, Blade, Rocky, Rambo, all these different, Veen Rames and some
Carl
of
Weathers. I can't remember the name of the
yeah,
movie, but yeah.
Yeah, all these
Action Jackson.
Action Jackson, all these guys, even to Bruce Lee, to
They would have never put Bruce Lee in a dress.
they'd get beat up first.
Yeah.
They'd have to
They walk in with it and it's like, I think you're in the wrong trailer.
They'd have to drug them.
Right.
But famous martial artists, all these different things like that. We went from that to now if you look at how men are portrayed on TV, we talked about this too. Just look at the fathers that are portrayed in shows now.
Yeah.
And I ask you this, when was the last time you saw a masculine, strong, capable, intelligent father being played on television, or sometimes even in the movies?
Yeah.
Now the role you usually see more than not is fathers being played in they're an idiot, they're not irresponsible, they're not intelligent, they or doing drinking, heavy drinking, drugs, like I said, going out and doing all kinds of craziness like that. You don't really see this. These are what people are being shown as being fathers now.
Mm-hmm.
Is like in
the Homer Simpsons and the Peter Griffins and yeah.
It's like so we went from the Cosby and these different things like that. The show you mentioned, My Wife and Kids,
the Wayans brothers,
Marlon Wayans, even to Carl Winslow and different things like that. We went from these fathers who were funny and had their moments. Uncle Phil, who had their moments,
that's like the pivotal.
Uncle Phil. They could be comedic and everything like that. But the thing was the priority for them was being that leader,
right,
of their family, of their house, of their kids, and make sure that their kids became valuable people in society.
Mm-hmm.
It's like these were shown to us. As then we went from that to now we have Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin.
Yeah,
in not just them, but just in society now.
For sure,
it's like this is how men are portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so I can see him getting up in arms about that.
I don't know when that happened though. I don't know when.
I think it was like
shift
watered down over time. Boom.
Yeah, it is sad to think about what could have been at this point, and I don't even think, or I would say this: even if you do start to see more of a strong father figure, he is deeply flawed. It's drinking or cheating on his wife or whatever. It's still not perfect. Baby boy.
It's I'm thinking
of
boy.
I'm thinking of Terrence Howard in Power, and I never watched, or that's Power, right? I don't fucking know. I don't watch the shows, but
Empire.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's called.
The few clips of Empire that I have seen, he's running like a big corporation. Mm-hmm. And he's in charge, but he's always cheating on his wife, or he doesn't really he's not honoring the family that he's built. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to pass it down to them as far as and there's a couple of the shows like that too, but if the man is successful, he's an asshole, or he's the worst version of a successful man, I would say, where maybe he's making his kids fight for who's going to be able to take it over, instead of just piecing out the way you should. It's got to be only one can rule the empire. This ain't Roman times, or this ain't the medieval times where it's first come first serve or firstborn. You can split up your dynasty amongst your kids and everybody be cool, but you're making them fight for it. So that's still not keeping the family together. You're making them fight for your riches. Mm-hmm. That's not good. That's toxic masculinity.
Well, there's no such thing.
I know, but it's the worst version of masculinity that I've seen for sure.
Yeah, man, it's happened gradually over time, but like I said, we've gotten to the point now where a lot of the things that are considered masculine or manhood or these different things like that are traditional traits of men are seen as, like you said, toxic or undesirable traits for boys to copy and see in society, to the point where it's easier to it's almost easier to find. It's almost easier to find a little boy wearing a dress than it is to find a little boy boxing.
For sure. I love the Instagram, anywhere, honestly, where it's like the kids learning how to fight at a super young age. Mm-hmm. And not just for the sake of violence, but they're being able to protect themselves. Yeah. Because we all know kids on the playground are ruthless, and they'll throw dirt on you and spit on you and try to beat you up and all this stuff. It's like, no, defend yourself.
And other people.
Yeah.
Other people you care about. It's not just learning to defend yourself isn't just about defending you, it's about defending people you care about as well. It's that's that little boy being able to defend his little sister as well.
And just because you're okay with your kid walking out of the house and addressing all this, you think society is going to be okay with that? Maybe some of them, but them kids who grew up different, or what would you call, I guess, like more of the standard, they're going to be the first ones to poke fun at that kid or try to make them feel ostracized and all this stuff. So it's like, and I've always said, like, I got a kid now, and even way before he was even thought of, I always thought, like, if my kid is gay, that's okay, but he will be strong. Yeah, best believe he's gonna be able to protect himself.
Yeah, if you're gonna wear that dress, dude, you better know how to fight.
You know what I'm saying? You better have some brass knuckles in your purse, dog. Like, nah, man, it's not happening.
It's like, don't throw on a dress and a wig and not be able to throw hands as well.
Exactly, because it's made worse, especially because, like, and I'm not trying to minimize anything, but it's just because I'm Black in this experience. Black gay kids do not have it easy. You know what I mean? So it's like, if anybody needs to learn how to protect themselves, it's them. Because the world is already going to be hard enough on you. Our own people will be hard enough on us because of shit like that. So it's like, look, if you're going to be gay, be strong. That's enough.
Straight strong, gay strong.
Exactly.
And
strong in general. Make strong the first thing that they can say about
Make America strong again.
Right. Make America Make America strong again. Wow. I didn't think about that one.
I think I saw a hat that said "Make America male again," or no, it said "Make men male again."
Right, make men. And the fact that people have to feel like they have to make those type of statements, they're just trying to defend what they think is right. Ultimately, that's all what it really boils down to.
That's all anybody's trying to do.
Yeah, he was just trying to defend the fact that he wants, and it's that same passion and fire that I get when I think about my kid. Yeah, it's like, look, bro. This world is hard. This world will leave you, will chew you up and spit you out. Yeah. You need to be able to maneuver a certain type of way, and I want to give you the freedom from jump, because the sooner the first 7 years of a kid's life is like how you program them for whatever the rest of their life might look like. Yeah. We spend a lot of time trying to deprogram ourselves from even the more negative things that, like, even if your upbringing was as positive as it could be, there's something you're going to have to deprogram at some point. Let me give you the tools to be able to, one, do that on your own, and also be able to withstand the bullshit that the world is constantly going to try to throw at you. Yeah. So if I can teach you to be a strong, dependable, and independent, free-thinking, respectable, dangerous man, why wouldn't I do that? I'm doing him a disservice if I don't give him the cheat codes now. Yeah, not now because he's only 7 months. But you know what I'm saying.
I'm already teaching him when he's not looking. I'm like, hey, it's like
yeah. Pull, don't squeeze, or squeeze, don't pull. But it's but it is sad because everybody wants to try to conform you on some level. But you need to be able to give these kids the ability to think independently first. Yeah. And in the same token, being able to say, hey, this is just how things are. If you want to be like your father, and it's not even just talking about me, but like if you want your son to be the man that his father was, he's got to be the one to show him. Yeah. And he's going to take different avenues no matter what, as he should. But it's still very, very important that you give him the foundation of, hey, this is how you protect yourself. This is how you stand. This is how you greet people. Manners, showing mutual respect, being able to defend yourself and defend your loved ones as well. Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. And it's at the end of the day, it's one of those things that I think people get up in arms about. I don't remember him saying anything in the interview about every household should teach their kids this. Every guy, every person should teach their kids do exactly the way I'm doing with my kids. It's not what he said. He said, this is what I'm doing for my family. And I don't care what you got to say about it, but this is what my kids will be. Right. If you don't want your kids to be that, cool. If you want your kids to be a complete pacifist and not know how to fight and never throw hands and run away, run away from every situation, or not be able to run away from every situation, get their ass kicked during, whatever it may be. If that's what you want for your kid, that kid won't be like that.
It won't, bro. Because
it's like, but if that's what you want for your family and how you want to raise them, to be complete, however it is like, as long as it's not hurting the kid, you're not abusing your child in any kind of way. It's like, do it how you want to. It's like, but then don't complain how the world treats your kid
right
when they go out of your house.
Right. It's not just about what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Are you preparing your son, your daughter, your people for when either you're not around or they're out in the environment, they're out in the real world, because the real world's not going to treat you nice.
Yeah. There's a you know Patton Oswalt is. He's a comedian. He's one of my favorite comedians. He had a joke on one of his specials where he was saying that he was like, yeah, I was in this park. I was with my daughter. I was teaching her how to scoot, like use the scooters and stuff. And there was a couple of kids playing. It was a girl and a boy, and they were playing with sticks. They had like sharpened the they had like sharpened the sticks, and they were like poking each other and throwing it, and it was like they were having a good time. Nobody was getting hurt, but the boy had like threw the stick and hit the girl with like sharp part. So the girl came running over to the dad. He came running over to the dad, and the dad like came running back over there and was like kind of not yelling at her, but like kind of being stern with her and stuff. But he wasn't disciplining her for getting hit with the stick.
Yeah.
He proceeded to show her how to use the stick.
Yeah.
And was like, this is which like you like you get your lick back kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God, I'm teaching my kids the wrong thing, because if something happens to my kid in the apocalypse, all they're gonna know is like stuff about the Lord of the Rings and Blade Runner trivia. Like they're not gonna have any survival skills.
Yeah.
When shit goes down. And he was like, and on the outside it looks bad because it's like, are you teaching your kid how to fight back? And he was like, well, yes, I am. Like where I wanted to be the more pacifist, kind, fun-loving father, but now they don't know how to defend themselves and they don't know how to survive if they do get fucked with. And I'm like, wow, that's a really good point, because it may look bad because it's a child, but that's what better time is it to teach a child how to protect themselves and survive, even if it's just a boy's picking on me. Oh, you fight back. And I'm not finna be the one to, go tell your teacher. No, you fight back. Somebody puts hands on you, you put hands on them. Or you warn them, you maybe give them 1 or 2 warnings, they don't get a third.
Yeah. You
don't get a third.
It's and that's the thing, it's probably hard for us to understand like where these other people are coming from. I could the only thing I can see is like there's something that gets triggered in you. It's like he touched some button in you that you're there's some projection going on there in the situation. Because at the end of the day, it's like, this guy's just doing what he thinks is best for his kids. That's anything everybody does with their kids, is hopefully doing what they think is best for them at the time. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're gonna be wrong. I'm not even a father, but I've been around enough kids to see like, hey man, whatever they got taught, man, they, I've seen very respectful kids. I'm like, I parents, and I've been even told as a kid, it's like, I know your mom by how you act. It's like, you're very respectful. You do things, you work hard, these different things like that. I could tell you were raised right. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And that's not even a compliment for me. That's not a compliment for her.
For sure. For sure.
It's like, it's like, this is how I was raised. This is just the way I do things. It's not even one of those things I'm trying to impress you. This is baseline operating system.
Right. Right. I had the same thing happen to me when I was getting a life insurance policy, and they had to come to the house to like draw blood and do the whole health checkup and all that stuff. And the woman walked in, and the first thing, anytime anybody comes to my house, the first thing I do is offer them something to drink. Like, hey, because I don't know where you're coming from. You could be thirsty. You could be like not be able to think straight, whatever. It's hospitality. You are now in my space. What can I get you? Kind of thing. So I offered her a glass of water, and she was like, oh no, thank you, I'm good. Nobody ever takes it half the time, but it's like I offered. And I was doing the whole, yes ma'am, no ma'am, all that stuff. And before 10 minutes goes by, she was like, I can tell you were raised like very well. Like, I can't tell you how many houses I go into when it's like not that way. And I was like, oh, well, that's how I was raised. And I could definitely see that not happening in a lot of places, but that's just not what happens in my space. So yeah, you're right. It is very much a compliment for your upbringing. Has nothing to do with you. It's just standard operating.
So how are you programmed? Are you being programmed to thrive in this world, or are you programmed to be, I'm just gonna say it, to be a victim of the world?
No, for sure.
Because
since you're like polarizing stuff,
I mean, it's
like,
how it goes. It's like, I think you're either programmed to survive and thrive, or you're programmed to be a victim.
Right.
You can't be a victim and tell me you're thriving. You can't be a victim and telling me that you're surviving this. It's like, because anything happens to you, you want to pull the victim card. You can't tell me you're living a successful life like that. When was the last time you heard a billionaire be like, it wasn't fair? It's just,
saying I'm a billionaire and I'm a victim doesn't even that should be an illegal sentence.
Nobody's gonna feel sorry for you.
No,
nobody's
dude.
gonna feel sorry for you.
Tell you what, nobody's gonna feel sorry for you if you're not a billionaire.
Yeah.
You could be making minimum wage, getting ready to get thrown out, your lights and your water don't work. Okay, well, work harder. That's all they're gonna tell you. Because anybody who is even one person removed from you, too bad, so sad. Work harder.
Yeah.
Bootstrap it. That's all they talk about here in America. So it's like, why would you expect anything else? Yeah, we have a lot of safe spaces now, but even in those safe spaces, you can't tell me people are not in there talking shit about each other. Period.
I just like to see one of those safe spaces when somebody walks up in there with a gun, or something.
I wouldn't want to see that because it's not going to end.
Or somebody walks up in there. It's like you telling me that this is a safe space. It's like, you know what's a safe space? A police station.
I wouldn't even say that.
It's probably the safest place I know. it's like, but
that could be a whole other topic.
That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. At the end of the day, it's like, and the thing we got to remember is men have to be raised, boys have to be raised differently than girls. Because at the end of the day, perfect example. When was the last time we both have seen, homeless guys and everything like that. It's like, it's a thing now where pretty much wherever you live, you're going to see somebody, a guy walking around homeless.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you saw him and was like, oh, it's like, that's usually not our first reaction. It's like, oh, it's like, hey, it might be like, hey bro, what happened? Da, 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 da.
I don't know.
It's like, if you have a conversation with them, I've had a conversation with these guys, but if you see a woman on the side of the road who's homeless and tense, different things like that, what's the reaction?
Much more sympathy.
It's sympathy.
It's day and night.
You're empathetic to the situation. You want to find
People don't have kids.
People are much more likely
Yeah.
to help a woman out in a situation like that than a guy. If you're driving down the road in the middle of the night and you see a guy limping down the road, and you saw a car a mile back that was wrecked, and you see him limping down the road, you pull over, like, hey man, I'll call you an ambulance. You see that same car, you see a woman limping down the road, I'm going to take you to the hospital.
Wow.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah, that's true. I go down to Denver sometimes, around Cherry Creek area. It's like one of the more fancy areas. And there's sometimes posted up a guy and his daughter. Mm-hmm. And it breaks my heart because, like, one, I mean, it's anytime you got kids out there with you trying to beg for change and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, damn, bro, like that's rough. Mm-hmm. To see children out there with their parents is rough that way. But there is another part of me that's like, I could not be in I refuse to be in his situation, because you do have a dependent, and it has to be a crushing feeling to be a father and not being able to take care of your kid and have them out there with that same little sign, day after day. So, I plan on, like, if I see him again, I'll give him, $10 or something so they can get something to eat. But I'll go out there and see women with children as well, but it's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
As far as the reaction to it. Cause I'm just like, fuck, bro. Like, you don't even have, and my brain just goes to, you don't even have a man to take care of you or whatever. Maybe he's out working. Maybe he is not there so that he can try to find something. But you're right. There is much more sympathy that happens for women and children than for any man, because at some point, most of society will say, well, I don't know where you fucked up, but you should have did better.
Yeah, it's on you.
It's never, it's on you.
It's on you. And that's why we can't raise girls like boys.
Right.
You can't do it. You can't, because the expectation in life is not going to be, men don't have the same expectation as women. It's like, I'm not going to say this is, it's less pressure or it's more pressure. It's different pressure.
Different pressure.
It's different. More, different things are required of you as a man. The world's going to look at you a different way as a man than they do a woman. So for you to raise a boy and you not prepare him for that scenario where the world's going to look at him and the world does not owe you understanding.
You failed him.
That's baseline. The world does not owe you understanding.
Right. For sure.
Is like, if you don't prepare that guy for that, you will, like you said, you will fail him as a man. That's how we get some of the snowflake-ish weak guys that we have now.
That a conversation I had with a friend of mine was talking about how he saw, like, one of these kind of weaker guys, and he was saying that it pissed him off because he used to be that way. So to see to shorten it, to see your weakness in somebody else and them not attend to it the way that maybe you did. And it takes time.
Mhm.
It definitely takes time to get your feet up under you and be able to actually like do these things, do the self-improvement stuff that it takes to get yourself out of that situation and no longer see a different version of you and attain that version.
Yeah.
But then you go back and you see a man who has those same weaknesses and they're not trying to do anything about it.
Mhm.
I think it's very disappointing. And if we're talking metaphysical, where we're all just reflections of each other, then you are seeing a failed version of yourself.
Mhm.
And if you're seeing a failed version of yourself, it's like, I would never go back to that.
Mhm.
And the fact that you thrive in it couldn't be me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think we tend to, even when you're fixing yourself
Mhm.
and you're trying to be the best version of yourself, to see that other people are not doing that,
Yeah.
kind of makes you feel like that could have been me. And you just want to be as far away from that as possible.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You're just trying to get away from the failed version of yourself at that point. But you can't really, the same way how they're angry with Anthony Mackie, you can't really be too pissed off at them because they're not you in that, in that sense.
Mhm.
They didn't make the choice that you made.
Yeah.
There's always a different version of you running around out there. So just because they are going about it a different way or haven't gotten to that point yet, well, everybody's got their own journey. But all you can do is control what you're doing, which is trying to get away from that weaker version of yourself.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is that there's a lot of that version out there that a lot of people aren't trying to do anything about.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. So let's wrap this up. I think it's been a great conversation.
For sure.
We always leave with tangibles. What are some actions that you can take now to, that this whole conversation, this whole situation is kind of, presented itself to you.
Yeah.
Like I'll let you go first because you're the one with the kid now. You got the boy.
Yeah.
You got Bam Bam.
I got
now.
Bam Bam. Yeah.
It's like, what. How do you feel about avoiding some of the things some of the pitfalls we've talked about of raising boys to become men?
Like I said, and I stick to this statistic because it makes sense from a lot of different angles for me. The first 7 years of his life, he's looking at me. You know what I mean? He looks at me now. You see how he is. Like, he can't take his eyes off me.
Yeah.
So I have to be the best version of me so that he will learn he has to be the best version of himself. And it's an everyday striving, never being satisfied with my performance type of mentality. You know what I mean? So I have to teach him to be respectful by being respectful.
Yeah.
I have to teach him to be independent by being independent. And that's not necessarily like not reaching out for help. I've always I won't get into that.
Go ahead and stick your finger in that plug. Go ahead.
Well, so for me, I had this conversation with my dad. I thought independence meant you have to do everything on your own and you can't rely on anybody. Sometimes independence is being able to reach out to other people without them coming to you first. When you have an issue, you say, "Hey, Travis, I don't know how to do XYZ. Can you show me?"
Yeah.
You're looking for those answers independently instead of just being like, "Well, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not gonna do it, and I don't want to ask anybody." No.
Never one like that again. You just got, oh man, I got so riled up.
That's what you're hearing.
I was like,
you know what I'm
nasally,
saying? A lot of
yes.
Travis, I can't.
You hear that way too much.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I have to teach him that it's okay that if you can't do this thing, go seek help.
Yeah.
That's independence, where you don't need to have somebody doesn't have to drag you to help find answers. You can go look for yourself. To me, that is what a level of independence is.
Yep.
But yeah, if I wanted him to be in shape, because I tell my wife all the time, I don't want a fat kid.
Yeah.
Period. You keep the cheeks, whatever, but you're gonna be in some type of shape. You know what I mean? So that means I gotta get my ass in the gym.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna watch it. Like when I see those videos of the parents or the fathers who are like lifting, and then their kid has like the toy version of that thing too. The baby weights. Do that. You can give and to show him that taking care of your health and your relationships and your mentality and all that stuff, that comes first. You know what I mean? So I have to be the best version of me on a daily basis, because as I'm growing, I'm watching him grow and he's watching me grow.
Yeah. So
I have to be the example first and foremost.
Definitely, for sure, man. Yeah, I think that's super key and important. Yeah, I think this has been a great conversation.
Cool.
the only thing on my end that I can, like I said, I'm not a dad yet. I can only take it from the perspective of the kid in this scenario is, bro, if you don't program your kids, the world will program them for you.
Facts. So your programming should counter the world's programming to a certain extent.
It has to. If you're raising boys, whether you're male, female, whatever, if you're raising boys, train them to prepare them for the world outside of your house.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best version of the world that you think is possible and everything like that, where everything is good and sun is shining and everything's peaceful and everything like that. They have a phrase for a reason, is like, plan for the best, prepare for the worst.
Right. Absolutely.
Is like teaching a young man to learn martial arts or fighting or any of these different things like that. You're not planning on a fight happening. I don't plan to walk out of this house and get into an incident.
Mm-hmm.
But am I prepared for it? Yes.
Right.
Because I have that training. Train your sons. Train your daughters for understanding that the world doesn't know you understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand that the world doesn't need to understand.
They will acknowledge your weaknesses before they acknowledge your strengths.
Absolutely. And the world is not a fair place. As much as we would want it to be, as much as I never want Bam Bam to have any kind of struggle out here in the world and go through some of the shit that we've gone through and have some of the incidents that happen. As much as I would love that for him, that's not the reality of the situation. Because you're not always going to be there. Right. I'm not always going to be there for kids in my family. When I have kids, I'm not always going to be there. You have to prepare them for those moments, especially boys. You got to prepare them for that, and don't treat boys the same as girls, because they're not.
No.
Okay, you have to prepare boys differently than you prepare girls.
I honestly thought if I had a girl, I would have felt sorry for her, because she would have got it way worse. She would have been like, training wise for martial arts and all that stuff, like she would have been doing everything under the sun, because I don't ever want her to feel like my father didn't prepare me for the men that are out here. Because if you want to talk about alpha men and guys just kind of going out there and taking what they want, well, women are the first thing on that menu, sir. Like, you will not be a victim. I don't want you to feel like you would be.
Let's pause it real quick, because I don't want to associate alpha men with.
No, that's not what taking. I'm saying. Right.
It's like there's just that there wasn't enough of a pause in that sentence.
Okay, you're right. That's my bad. But what I'm saying is, like, for those men who feel like they need to behave a certain type of way to be considered a man, you will not be a part of that.
There's evil in this world.
Exactly.
Let's be real about it. There's fucking evil in this world.
Right.
There are evil people in this world moving and living around you and moving around you in your world. There is evil in this world. Just as much as there is good, there is an opposite of that.
Right.
And not preparing for that in any kind of way is just you being naive.
Exactly.
Setting you up to fail, you and your kids.
Exactly. Yeah. So my bad. Should have put more of a pause between that. I was like, damn, I fucked up.
No, you're good. It's just when I heard it, I was like,
right. But yeah, just being, I wanted to always make sure that, I mean, it's going to be the same for him, but I felt like I felt twice that pressure if I would have had a girl.
Yeah.
Is making sure that she got the hands and the feet to protect herself.
Sure. For sure. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap this up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation. I've definitely enjoyed this conversation. Even just getting our different perspectives on certain things, how we think about manhood, masculinity, and coming from a new father's perspective and a guy who will be a father one day. No kids right now. I better not get
that you know of.
It's like but no, yeah, I think it's definitely been a learning moment in this, and I know this will help somebody along the way, along their path, no matter where they're at, whether they have kids or they want to have kids or these different things like that, or just young guys growing up and wondering why they turned out the way they turned out in certain instances. I think these are important conversations for us to have, and not just kind of gloss over some of these topics when society kind of feels like it can just go ham on these situations. Guys need to address these things, because when we don't, that's when we start to slide farther and farther down that path, and masculinity and manhood starts getting more and more watered down, and more watered down. And then 10 years from now, him saying that situation completely gets him canceled, loses a job, gets thrown in jail, these different things. Like, that's how that kind of stuff happens.
Wow.
It's like, if you don't stop somebody from saying something You know, as they say, basically evil's a seed. All it needs is water to grow.
For sure.
At the end of the day,
And
the water and opportunity.
And the only thing that's required for evil to thrive is that good men do nothing.
See, and that's the phrase. That's what I was gonna say.
That's what
but
you're
I
looking for?
completely forgot the quote in my head. So
Yeah.
you're looking at.
Gotcha. But then, like, and then men who are passive, they let those things happen. You know what I mean? And they may be focused on, he should have went to therapy and all that stuff. Well, that therapy didn't stop him or him not going to therapy didn't stop him from grabbing a gun and shooting up a mosque or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you still need that base. I'm finna go to war someday, whether it's abroad or at home, and I need to be able to be prepared for that. You know what I mean? Because it's like you say, what we say all the time. It's better to be a warrior in the garden
than a garden in the war.
See you guys next time.
Take it easy.
Peace.